remember leaving the office that day. I had the letter in my hand, and as I was walking to the crossing to cross this road, something happened. I was sort of, should I post the letter here or get on the train with it, post it at the other end? Should I get my newspaper? Just the normal, the inner voices in your head that you get. And my mind was just busy thinking about the children, thinking about dinner and everything else. And then something a little bit different happened, my how do I say, intuition, gut feeling. It was like, no, you need to post the letter now. You need to go across the road, press the light, the button to make the lights turn like green man for you, so red to stop the traffic. And somebody else got to the button first, and I was like, okay, that's made my mind up. I'm going to cross the road, because this was important. This is what really sort of defined the moment, whether I died or not completely, and I explained. So somebody had come to the crossing, pressed the button, and I was like, okay, that's made my mind up. Okay, I get it. I'm going to cross the road. And there was 5 of us that crossed the road on that day, and there was an island, you get to the middle of the road and then you can cross the rest of the road. So there's traffic going 2 different directions, and it was all seemed slow motion. Now when I look back at it, it was really strange, like milliseconds. And as I got to the island, the middle part, I was thinking, okay, shall I walk straight across the road to post this letter in the letterbox, then go the other way to go and get the newspaper from the shop on the other side? Or shall I? And then suddenly I heard a voice, and it was really strange because it sounded like my nan's voice, who's passed over when I was 15 years old, so many years ago. And her voice was sort of saying, I heard a voice which was ridiculous, and I said, what? And she sort of said, go get the newspaper, which meant I had turned at an angle on the crossing. And I was still doubting it. My head was sort of like, why would I do that? You know how you go in your head like, oh, why would I do these sort of things? And then she's just saying, go and get the newspaper first, go back on yourself. And I was sort of like, this chat was going on in my head. And I did it. And then the first step went down on my right leg, and I was at an angle, crossing the road to go to the shop to get the newspaper to read on the train on the way home. And that was that. That was when the van had hit me. So the reason why that was so important, because the police had said later on, if I had gone straight across the road and had posted the letter into the letterbox, the logical thinking Anne, if I had done that, I would have gone through the windscreen, and no doubt my head would have been severed. So whatever. So what had happened is, going at the angle that I went at, the van had hit me sideways on, and the internal injuries, what happened was that my rib cage my ribs had been fractured down on my left-hand side of my body. And I had been bounced off the side of the van and sort of flew and hit the ground about 10 feet across. And I'd then whacked my hip. And so I'd fractured my hip. I severed my stomach muscle, how it fell. It was like a giant pumpkin on the side of my body afterwards. I ripped my knee out of its joint and broken my kneecap. My foot had torn, my ankle had torn, and I had 7 breaks in my metatarsals of my toes and my foot. And my Achilles heel had been torn. I had internal injuries. My kidneys had been damaged. My spleen had been damaged. But I didn't knock my head. That was good. And so when I hit the ground, I didn't feel it, to be honest. I didn't feel that. So those were the internal injuries that took 4 years to actually heal. I was in a wheelchair for 2 years, and then I had a walking stick further 2 years after that. So 4 years I was disabled to recover from it. But what had happened was that I literally, as I knocked the ground, I didn't feel anything. I just felt extremely, extremely warm. I felt that I felt the presence of my nan that had been around me. I felt very warm. There was this light that I, like a bright light, but not unbearable to the eyes, bright white light that happened. And I mean, this was March, it was winter in London and it was cold, but I felt warm. And I could just hear her saying, everything is going to be all right. And as she was talking to me saying this, it was strange because I then realised, I mean, now working as a psychic medium, I understand about this multidimensional part of ourselves, because what happened was, so my physical body had hit the ground and sort of time sort of stood still in a sense. I'd hit the ground, I had these injuries, and there was part of me that was looking down on my body. I didn't know it was actually my body, to be honest. It's really hard to explain. There was part of me that was with my nan, and I could hear her, I could feel her, and it was this white space. And I was given all these other informations too. And there was part of me that was looking down, and I didn't know it was me, but I was looking down and I was sensing everybody's feelings and emotions in the area. So complete strangers had stopped. It was as if like someone had stopped a stopwatch, a magic stopwatch, and everyone froze in time. And there was, in the street, there was a number of people that ran out from the shops. I remember seeing a woman. I saw the woman screaming from a hairdresser's that came out with a rolled up towel. She was going to put it under my neck to help, of course. She just wanted to help. And then there was a couple of people saying, don't touch her, don't touch her. And then there was a relative there. Sorry, I feel so emotional because it still takes me back. There was a relative of my in-law, my partner at the time. He had seen the accident happen and he obviously recognised me and came running over. So he knew it was me. But where I was, I could see his face, and all the blood had drained from his face. It looked quite grey in the face. And I remember thinking, why is he so upset? But I could recognise that who he was, connected to the family. And I just picked up on everybody's thought processes, like they was so anxious and worried about me. And then on the other side of the road, there was a part of me that ended up inside this lorry, sitting next to this lorry driver that I didn't know. And I could hear and see him. He was on his radio saying, some silly woman, she's got knocked down by this van, and now I'm late for work, I'm stuck here, there's traffic. And I was holding him up, and there was a few rude words, blue words he was swearing, and then I could hear on the radio station there had been a massive accident in London where I had been knocked down, and there was an air ambulance that was due, so a helicopter was going to come and land, and they were trying to divert people away from the area. So that was that. And then there was another part of me that was being shown information somewhere else. I felt very safe. It was just really strange. I was being instructed and told by, I'd say, beings now. I didn't know what to call them at the time. They had unrolled some scrolls, like you would see if someone's an architect, the scrolls were unrolled and they could see them. They were showing me big books, giant books, that when they opened the pages, I could see that it was like something like Harry Potter now, because Harry Potter wasn't around at that time. It was like as if there was moving images in the books they were showing me, and they were just giving me loads and loads of information. And I remember being there, that I was looking around and I could see beings of all different shapes and sizes like gliding by, because I remember thinking they don't have any legs. That was part of my feeling there. So that was all going on, all this information. I mean, there was still lots of information given to me. And it was only then when, and I didn't feel the pain. I didn't feel the coldness. I wasn't actually in my body at the time. And then I could feel my partner who was running down the road. He had a shop that was down the road from this accident, and his mum, they were both running down the road. And I wasn't sort of feeling his sadness, nothing like that, but I knew he was coming towards something there, and I still wasn't 100% sure it was my body. And then it was only when he touched my head, he had his hand on my head, I was laying flat on the road, the physical self, but I could feel his thought process, that he was saying, how am I going to manage with his children, my 2 children? Like, he said them by name. And it was when he did that, I realized that it was my body. And then I was saying, what's going to happen to Rebecca and Nathan? But before I could finish the sentence, it was almost like I was being told the information. I didn't have to finish my sentence. They knew what I was going to say. And then the paramedic ran across the road. I could see the bike with the paramedic. And then the ambulance arrived. I saw all that, and they were cutting my clothes off. I didn't feel any pain at that point. And then they decided to paddle me, so the electric pads to start my heart. And then when that happened, it was almost like I'd come through on a water slide in a water theme park. I came whizzing back down into my body, and then the pain, I could feel it was like a come back. And then on the way to the hospital, I was in and out. I was looking down at the top of the ambulance as it was driving through the streets of London. I saw the crash team working on my body. There's 3 sets of crash teams that was working on different parts of my body. And I remember looking down, seeing it happening, and I could see their faces, and I could feel the panic in the crash room, the emergency room. And I was there for some time in the hospital, and every so often I was going in and out again, and I was leaving my body, and I could see I was there in the hospital bed. And then there was times where I also felt as if I was holding my nan's hand, and the nurse she said to me, you had an experience, didn't you, while I was in hospital? So much information. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell, really.